welcome to the Matchday Live third session with Isaac Blakey, referee of Berks and Bucks tutor. Today's session is going to be on foul tackle recognition.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Chris. Right, evening all. Hope we're all doing well. Thank you very much for the introduction. Let's get straight into the presentation. So I'm just going to share my screen. Might take a few seconds. Excellent. So obviously, as Chris said, tonight's session is on recognising foul challenges. Welcome. Nice little picture of 4 Berks and Bucks referees there. I hope you're all doing well, staying safe, your families are staying safe. Hopefully we'll have an enjoyable evening tonight. You'll learn lots. If you don't enjoy it, my name is Matt Lachlan or Tony Dean, all right? If you do have any questions, as Chris said earlier, please do interact, all right? Use the hands up system, put something in the box, right? Because otherwise this session is going to be terrible. I'm sure most of you don't want to hear me speak for an hour because I speak enough as it is. So please give something back and give something for us to work with. Excellent. Right, let's get straight into it. Obviously, Chris gave me a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to play a couple rounds of 2 truths, 1 lie, right? So in the comments box, if you could put which one you think the lie is, and then Chris will give me a rough idea which one's the most popular, all right? So number 1, I'm half Zimbabwean. Number 2, I run a full marathon. And number 3, I have 2 siblings, all right? So just put 1, 2, or 3 in the comments box. Let's see if you guys get it right. Chris, what number are people going for mostly?
It's fair to say we're split between 2 and 3. I think possibly 3 is just about in the lead.
Oh, people trying to say I'm too fat to run a full marathon. Well, that's not very nice. Okay, well, we'll move on to this one. The correct answer is number 3. That is the lie. Okay, so I only have one sibling, my sister Rebecca. I am half Zimbabwean. It's where my mum is originally from. And yes, hard to believe, but I have run a full marathon before. Right, we'll do 1 more. This one's a bit more refereeing based. So again, if you could put which one you think the lie is. So number 1, I qualified as a referee in 2014. Number 2, my first ever game was at Cantley Park in Wokingham. And number 3, I almost had to wear red boots for my first game as a level 4. So which one do you think the lie is? Give you 30 seconds just to put someone in the chat box for Chris. I can't see the chat box, unfortunately, so Chris is kind of going to be my commentator and my guide as we're going through.
Yeah, again, number 2 seems to be popular.
Ooh, excellent. Okay, so you guys obviously know me well. Number 2 is in fact the lie. My first ever game was at Clayfield Cops in Caversham between Caversham girls under 11 and I can't remember who they were playing. Obviously a very memorable game. Excellent. Right, it's just a little fun to get started and get to know me a little bit better. Right, so let's have a look at what we want to achieve tonight. Okay, so one of the first things we want to achieve is, as you can see on the screen, what is the difference between careless, reckless and excessive force? Okay, so we want to know the difference between each type of tackle and foul. Okay, can we differentiate between careless, reckless and excessive force? All right, so can we know the differences to recognise what makes a careless foul, what makes a reckless foul, what makes an excessive force foul? All right, and the last point, what can we do to help ourselves detect acts of serious foul play? Okay, so we're going to be looking at what things cause acts of serious foul play and what we can do to try and help ourselves prepare for those. Okay, so first little task for you, okay? What does a careless challenge look like? So in your little text box, I want you to put 3 words which you think best describes a careless challenge, right? So I've given a little example on the screen. I've put clumsy, accidental, mistimed, all right? So if you were speaking to someone down the pub and they didn't know what careless meant exactly, okay, what 3 words would you use to describe that? Just 30 seconds. Be nice and brave, right? No one's going to judge you if you get it right or wrong, all right? Just what 3 words best describe a careless challenge, and then Chris will give those back to me in a sec. Try and use as many different words as possible, all right? If you see someone's already nicked a word, be creative, think outside the box, okay? Like I said, this is a great learning environment, and I want to see how you would describe a careless challenge to someone down the pub on a Saturday night. Chris, what types of words have we got coming through for me? Chris, we got any words coming through?
Yeah, so we've got late and lazy, just a free kick. Without thinking, we've got unintentional.
Mm-hmm.
Point of contact is not dangerous.
Good, yep.
Uncontrolled.
Uncontrolled. Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Is that enough to get you going?
Excellent. That's perfect. Right. Well done, guys. So some really good key words there. All right. So obviously we've had a little think about how we would describe a careless challenge. And let's have a look at what laws of the game says. Okay. So careless. Careless is when a player shows a lack of consideration or attention when making a challenge or acts without precaution. Okay. So there's the definition in the laws of the game. And no disciplinary action is required. All right. So no caution or no send off. Obviously, we can see Graham Scott there trying to obviously explain to this player what a careless foul actually means, and he's obviously not paying much attention to Graham. Graham is due to be speaking next week, and he's going to have quite a hard act to follow after this week, I hope. Anyway, let's move on to the next one. So again, similar challenge to the first one. Can you give me 3 words which you think best describe a reckless challenge? So if you're down the pub, how would you describe a reckless challenge? Just very quickly, 30 seconds, fire some words in for Chris to read out. The careless ones are very, very good. Get our brains thinking, what does a reckless challenge look like? We're on the field of play on a Saturday afternoon or a Tuesday night. Reckless challenge goes in. How do we describe it? What words have we got coming through, Chris?
Okay, so we got disregard for opponent or lack of regard. We have a little bit naughty.
Oh, little bit naughty. That's a great phrase. I haven't heard that one before. Blimey, little bit naughty. Anything else? Few more words for me.
Late, mistimed.
Good.
Slightly more force than the careless challenge.
Good. Excellent. Right. Thanks, Chris. That'll do for reckless. So well done, guys. I think my favourite so far is a little bit naughty one. All right. Let's have a look at what does the law say for a reckless challenge. So the law says when a player acts with disregard to the danger to or the consequences for an opponent, and the disciplinary action, the player must be cautioned. So you can see a nice hand model giving a yellow card there. All right. So I think some of you quoted pretty much what that said in the law of the game. So obviously some of you know it already, which is fantastic. All right. So there's a definition on the screen. All right. One more little task. You know the drill by now. How would you describe an excessive force challenge? All right. So the most severe of the 3, which keywords would you use to describe an excessive force challenge? Oh my gosh. I've put what does a reckless challenge look like in the box. Ignore that. It is supposed to be excessive force. All right. Just 30 seconds. What words would you use to describe it? I want to hear some belters. Think outside the box. Be creative.
Okay, so picking up on that theme, we've got very naughty, brutal, very dangerous, endangers safety, leg breaker.
Ooh.
Possibly 2-footed challenge.
Good.
Obviously, the point of contact is in a dangerous position.
Yep.
Scissor tackles, out of control or lost control.
Good. Excellent. Right. We'll hold it there. Some really good things coming through. And I'm sure if your answer wasn't read out, don't worry. Have a look at what's on the comments box and you can pick up different bits and pieces from other people. Right. Let's have a look what excessive force says in the law. Right. So excessive force is when a player exceeds the necessary use of force and or endangers the safety of an opponent. All right. That last phrase is absolutely key. All right. We'll come back to that a bit later. The player must be sent off. Okay. So when a player makes a challenge with excessive force, okay, they're going to be sent off for serious foul play. All right, and we're very lucky. IFAB are very kind. They gave us a definition of what they see as serious foul play. So I'm just going to read it to you now. You can see it on the screen. All right, so any player who lunges at an opponent from the front, side, or from behind using one or both legs in a manner which uses excessive force or endangers the safety of the opponent is guilty of serious foul play. Okay, so that's really, really important for us to know and to recognize. Okay, so the whole point of this exercise, guys, is going through the law and the key words. Okay, it's really important as referees that we know exactly what the law says and how to describe and recognize a foul challenge for a number of reasons. One of the reasons, as I've already mentioned, if we know what the laws are, they give us lots of hints and tips to help us categorize each foul and challenge into the 3 categories of careless, reckless, and excessive force. Right. So, for example, for a serious foul play excessive force challenge, the law tells us that any player who lunges at an opponent must be sent off. Right. So we've already got one key word to help us put any lunging tackles into the red card category. All right. So we really need to learn the laws of the game so it can help us to categorize each foul as it comes. All right. Another really important point is we need to be able to know the laws of the game so we explain it to players and coaches. Okay. I'm not one of these referees that spouts off random rubbish when a player asks me, oh, why was that a caution, ref? Why was that a red card? Or I stick to law strictly. Okay. Because as referees, it's important for us to educate people as well as enforce the laws of the game. Right. So it's important that you're quoting law as much as you can. All right. It makes it much more simple and much clearer for people when you are quoting law. All right. And the third reason, if you were being observed on a game, just a little tip, if the observer comes in after the game, he says, oh, Blakey, talk me through that challenge in the 53rd minute. I thought it was a red card, but you only gave a caution. If I strictly stay to a reckless definition, look, mate, I was 5 yards away. The player was in control. He showed a disregard to his opponent, but he didn't use excessive force or endangered the safety. The observer is more likely to back you, right? And he can't really argue with that. So those are just 3 points why it's important to know our laws of the game. Okay, serious foul play. All right, so on the screen now are some things that we need to consider when analysing and recognising what makes a serious foul play challenge. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly go through them, and it'll be good for you guys to remember because these things are really key indicators to show that a challenge is potentially a red card. So number 1, is there a reasonable chance of playing the ball, right? So obviously the further away the ball is from the opponent, a less chance of them playing the ball in a fair manner, right? So that's just going to increase the risk of the challenge, right? If the ball is right by the opponent's feet when he's dribbling, all right, it's more likely the challenge is going to be fair. But the further away the ball is, it's more likely to be unfair. Okay. Point 2, 3, and 4. So the degree of speed of intensity, the distance traveled, and is the player airborne in control of their actions? Okay. Those 3 points kind of link together. Okay. Because all 3 of those things, if they increase, so if the speed increases, the distance travel, and the height the player challenges with, the force will increase. Okay. And when there's an increased force, it's more likely to endanger the safety of the opponent. Okay. So if those things start to increase, then we need to start thinking in our minds, okay, right, this could be more serious than what I originally thought. Okay, so those 3 kind of link together. Position of the feet, foot raised with the studs leading, right? So of course, every challenge where a player goes in with their studs up is more likely to be more dangerous, okay? Because studs can cause some serious harm to people, especially if they catch them in the wrong places, okay? So really, really important to recognize the position of the feet. Malice, brutality when making the challenge. Again, two key words which could help us to describe an excessive force challenge or when a player endangers the safety of their opponent. Point of contact. Obviously, the higher the point of contact on the opponent, the more dangerous the challenge is going to be. So if Jimmy slides in the middle of the park and catches Jeff on a Sunday morning on his big toe, okay, that's going to be far less dangerous than if Jimmy then decides to kick Jeff in the face. Okay, so just something to remember. Point of contact, really, really important. So generally, the higher we go up the body, the more dangerous the challenge is. Okay, And the last point, probably the most important, does the player clearly endanger the safety of the opponent? As referees, our main job is to keep the player safe on the pitch. Okay, so any player that steps out of line and puts in a challenge which endangers the safety of the opponent must be dealt with correctly. Okay, so really, really important, guys. Okay, time for the clips now. In the email you received yesterday, you should have all had links to the clips which are on my YouTube channel. Okay, hopefully you've watched them prior to this. So this is just going to be a bit of a reminder. If you haven't, don't worry, we are going to play the clips now. The only reason I say that is I'm not sure how good the quality is going to be on this clip now. All right, so if you are struggling a little bit with the clip, just go onto the YouTube channel using the link you were sent yesterday and then watch them that way with us. All right, so the way it will work is we'll watch the clip once, maybe twice, and then we'll come back and then we'll vote. So each slide will have an option to vote, and those will be your 4 options. Please be brave, put an answer. Like I said, no one's going to judge you. It's important to learn. It's a really safe learning environment. Chris will give me a rough idea of how he feels the vote is going, and then I'll go through my own thoughts and opinions on the clip. And then please, guys, if you have anything to add, please come in. So if it's something on the text which Chris can read to me, or if you want to put your hand up and say something to the rest of the group, please do. All right, because this is just my opinion. And as some of you know, who've seen me ref, my foul tackle recognition isn't best on the best of days. So please chip in with your opinion. Everyone's opinion is valid. Okay. Right. Let's get into clip 1. Okay. So I'm going to quickly stop sharing this screen and share the other screen. So this clip is an interesting one. We're going to be focusing on the second part of the clip. Some of you might the referee here, if you do go easy on him. This game is from the Hellenic Premier League. It's Royal Wootton Bassett Town versus Fairford Town. All right, so let's give it a little watch. Just bear with me. Clip 1. Excellent. Right. Okay, ready? Right. Ooh. Okay, I'll play that one more time. Ooh, okay, right. Let me just share the other presentation. When I do this, but it will be fine once we get it sorted. Right, share screen. Okay, guys, so now that you've seen the clip, can you now put in the box whether you think it's careless, reckless, excessive force, or you would just play on? All right, so just put a little keyword in there for me. And then Chris can read them to me in a second, okay? Like I said, please be brave. Put a little vote in for us. What do you think? And by the way, yes, the referee is me.
So we're looking like pretty unanimous. We've all gone for careless.
Oh, what? I thought you guys were going to back me with the reckless. Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Right. What is your decision? Blah, blah, blah. Excellent. So, yes, guys, if you said careless, well done, you are correct. So this is a careless push by the blue 15, right, on the red player. So I put there was no force used to push the red player. The blue 15 clearly does not show a disregard to the danger to or the consequences for his opponent, and I feel the ball is in reasonable playing distance for the player to make the challenge, all right? So, yes, I was the referee for this game, and it was not a great decision. Right? As you can see, it did result in a second caution and a red card for the player. Again, so it just highlights how important the decision was and how bad I feel about it, because it was really incorrect, okay? I think if I went back, I would have given myself more time to think, as I've said in the clip here, on the slide. I would have given myself more time to think and recognise that it was only a careless challenge, right? There was no force, no malice. It wasn't a deliberate act. Okay, so it was definitely just a free kick to the red team, and then we could have played on without a caution. I've put at the bottom here, not all deliberate acts is worthy of a caution. Okay, my coach is on here tonight, Kieran Bailey. Kieran, hope you're doing well. And I had a lengthy phone conversation after this clip went viral with them. And I think if you slow the clip down and watch it in slow-mo and watch the clip, I think you can tell that the blue 15 probably deliberately does push him, but that doesn't necessarily mean it always has to be a caution. Okay, there are some times where you can look to manage those situations and not always produce a caution. So for me, it was a really, really good learning point, and it's something that I've taken forward going into my games. So I think, Chris, does anybody have anything to add? A raised hand? Any questions about that from the box?
No, I think you're okay to move on.
Any questions? Any points at all before I move on?
Isaac, I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
Is that to just say to people that the next challenge after a yellow card is not automatically a second yellow card and a sending off.
Yeah, I agree, Steve. And to put this into context, this was a substitute. He'd only been on the pitch probably 10 minutes, and I sent him for an early shower. I think I gave him his first caution after about 2 or 3 minutes, and then the next one was probably like 7 or 8 minutes later. So, Steve, yes, you're entirely correct there. I should have looked to manage the second caution, especially as he came on as a substitute. I kind of ruined his evening there a little bit. Feel quite bad. No, I don't really. But yeah, big learning for me. And hopefully you guys can take that on board too. Right, excellent. Let's go to the next clip. Just going to stop sharing the screen. Okay, guys. So same as clip number 1, play on to excessive force. So can you put what you think, what decision you would make in the box for me?
Okay, so pretty unanimous again. We're all gone for reckless.
Oh, okay. You guys, I don't know, maybe you guys have seen some of these clips before. It's good. Right, recognizing challenges. So we're going for reckless, yeah, Chris, most of us? Okay, good. So these are my key points and analysis of clip 2, all right? So I've said this is a reckless foul tackle committed by the blue 4. The yellow player manages to get the ball first, which results in the blue 4 kicking him in a reckless manner, okay? So for me, it is a bit unfortunate from the blue player's point of view. The yellow player has just nicked in front before, and unfortunately, he's already started to make the challenge, and as a result of that, he's ended up catching the yellow player. I think I saw Adam Jackson's comment. He made a really good point. The point of contact isn't very high, right? So I think he's caught him just on the bottom of the ankle, roughly. Okay, so again, it's not a very high point of contact, which lowers the risk of the challenge. So that's why I think it's a reckless challenge, and the referee was correct to issue a caution. All right. In the scheme of the clip, it was that player's second caution, which obviously ended in a red. 2 lemons make a strawberry, Matt Lachlan. So that was a bit unfortunate for the player, but I think the referee has made the correct decision on that isolated tackle. I've put a key point here. Ooh, go back, sorry. I put a key point here. Use player reaction carefully. It doesn't always tell the picture, okay? So I've only put this in because the yellow players, they've gone apoplectic at the referee. They've all surrounded him very quickly as soon as the challenge was made. All right. I know that this clip's not great because that player was already on a caution, so they probably weren't looking for a straight red card. They were just looking for the second caution to get him sent off. But still, it's a really valid point. Player reaction doesn't always tell the picture. A lot of players, they will go crazy at referees just so they can try and get a player sent off or caution so they can gain an advantage against the other team. All right, so you see that quite a lot, especially at senior football. I think you need to be very careful with player reaction because, like I said, sometimes players aren't always truthful. On the other hand, you can use player reaction to your advantage, okay? So if a tackle's gone in and you're not entirely sure, if all the players all of a sudden start chasing the opponent around the pitch because he's almost broken their teammate's leg, then that's probably a pretty good indicator that the challenge is quite severe. All right, so just something to think about, player reaction when trying to identify foul tackles. Does anybody have anything to add, Chris?
Only that Matt Lachlan has copyrighted 2 lemons and a strawberry, make a strawberry. So,
well, Matt, I'm very sorry. We can sort that out after the meeting. Any other points? Anybody got raised hands? Please, guys, if you want to chip in with something, please do. I can't be right all the time. I'm never right, mostly. Ask Kieran, my coach.
I think you're all good to carry on.
Excellent. You guys are brilliant guests. Right. Next one. Clip number 3. Okay. Right, let's have a vote for me, please. Would you play on? If you guys have a little comment to add as well, as why you think it's a caution or a red card or a play on, please do put that in so Chris can tell me. But from other people, we're very lucky. We've got some high-level refs and tutors and coaches in tonight, so make the most out of their views and opinions. Chris, what have people voted for on the whole?
So I think we've all gone for red card.
Any different opinions to red card?
Not at the minute. Everyone's gone red. Basically excessive force. We've got, looks like he launches himself off the ground with both feet.
Good.
Studs up out of control. Leg is straight, knee isn't bent. Again, out of control, leaves the ground. Excessive lunge. Yeah, so all those reasons.
Excellent. Right, those are some very, very good reasons. Okay, so well done for those of you that said this is an excessive force challenge, right? So I put this is an act of serious foul play by the red 3. He lunges at his opponent using extended leg, all right? So well done for whoever said straightened leg, with the studs leading using excessive force and clearly endangers the safety of his opponent. Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys noticed, but for me, the referee was not in a great position to view that challenge. All right, both distance-wise and angle. Okay, I think the referee was too far away, and I think that they didn't have the best of angle. Okay, and if you watch the whole clip, this point would be proved because he has to go and ask his assistant referee for the decision. Okay, so positioning is really, really important during the game, right? We need to be in the best position and have the best angle possible to detect especially reckless and excessive force challenges. Okay, really, really important. Anybody disagree with me there? Put a little comment if you think, or if you want to add anything to the positioning, please do. And I put, did the referee recognise the triggers of a potential heavy challenge? Right, so I'm just going to quickly talk to you about the triggers of a heavy challenge. So for me, this is really, really important to be able to identify, especially excessive force challenge, but as well as reckless. Okay, this is only something that I probably brought into my game in the last season or 2, so very recent, but I'm finding it's generally on the whole helping me massively. So as a referee, we need to be able to identify the potential triggers which could lead to a reckless or excessive force challenge. So the triggers to look out for, the heavy touch. So the clip we just watched, the red 3, a prime example, he's had a heavy touch and then he's gone chasing after the ball to try and regain possession. So the heavy touch is a really key indicator that a challenge is coming. A bouncing ball. So when the ball is bouncing, so especially in summer or in spring when the ground's hardened up, the ball is going to bounce a lot more. So if the ball's in the air, naturally the height of a challenge of a player is going to be automatically higher. And as I mentioned earlier, point of contact, the higher the point of contact, the more risk involved with the challenge. So obviously with the ball bouncing, we need to be switched on that there could be a heavy challenge. Number 3, a loose 50-50 ball. Oh, ref, it was just a 50-50, man. Come on. Okay. You hear that all the time, especially on a Sunday morning. As soon as that ball runs loose, I can feel my stomach start to churn. Right? I know there's going to be 2 players steaming in full pace to try and win it back. And I think, unfortunately, some players still think that the 50-50 law still applies, but unfortunately it doesn't in this day and age. And the last point, aerial ball. So if the ball spends a long time in the air, so you go to some lower league games and you see a lot of long ball, head tennis, back and forth. The longer the ball is in the air for, the more powerful the challenges are going to be, all right? So the players are going to start to become more aggressive, and eventually it's going to result in either a caution or a red card usually. So the best way to identify these triggers early is through self-talk and communication, right? So what I do on a Saturday afternoon or a Tuesday night, when I see one of these 4 things happening, I'll go tackle coming, just in my mind, okay? So that will prepare me mentally and able to switch on and focus, ready for that big tackle to come in. You could use other words like switch on or focus, but I like to use tackle coming for all of those 4 things, right? So really, really important to help us identify the triggers. Chris, does anybody have anything to add on anything I've said or on clip 3?
Yeah, just one question for you, if we can, Isaac.
Yes, go for it.
What is your recommendation for a better position in that situation?
Okay, so as I put on the previous slide, I don't think the referee's work rate was fantastic. I think the referee could have worked a lot harder, especially to try and get into the other half of the field of play quicker to be able to judge a challenge. So obviously, I would be trying to keep the play and the ball between myself and the assistant. So I might be trying to sidestep really quickly or a little sprint and then turn sideways. So I'm facing onto it. So I'm within 10 to 15 yards, facing onto it with a clear angle and position. So lots of sideways movement, lots of sprinting to get into the optimum position as quickly as possible. All right. I think for me personally, this is quite lazy refereeing from this referee. And I think it's ended up costing him because he hasn't seen it clearly and he's had to go to his AR. For those of you that have watched the clip in full, the referee does produce a caution. So again, he's got a big decision in the game, a big KMD wrong. Anything else, Chris?
Yeah, Matt, do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Chris. So what I put in the chat is that players will be shouting that the player got the ball, Blakey.
Yes.
Do you not consider that in your
Matt,
decision making?
So Matt, how many? I've got a question for you now. I'm going to throw it back. How many times is the ball mentioned in law?
I'm not sure.
I know.
I think law 2 maybe.
Law 2. What is law 2, Matt?
I think it's about the ball.
Oh, it's about the ball. Excellent. Okay, so the only time the ball is mentioned in law is in law 2. Okay, so every other occasion it's irrelevant. All right. So when a player says, "Oh, I won the ball, I got a touch," if the challenge is done with excessive force or endangers the safety, it's still a red card. Okay. If it's done in a reckless manner, it's still a red card. Okay. Obviously, sometimes you might need to take into consideration the ball, but most of the time, if the challenge is poor, then it's poor and it needs to be dealt with. Okay. Does that answer your question, Matt?
Yeah. Thank you very much, Blakey. I just wanted to
thank you, Matt,
cover the base for you as well.
Thank you, Matt. Excellent. Right, let's move on because I'm wary of time. Got quite a few to get through. Right, we're going to skip clip 4. Actually, no, we're not. We are going to watch clip 4. Yeah, so this is from the National League Law, step 2 of the English system, so at a very decent level. And a couple refs on this chat officiate at that level. To be interesting to get a point of view. Okay, watch it one more time. Okay, so put a little vote in the box for me. Play on, careless, reckless, or excessive force. What do we think? Again, if you could pop some reason in there as well. Right, I'm starting to give you a little bit of information, a little bit of reasoning. That would be fantastic. Let's have a little vote. What are people thinking? Are we going for play on? We haven't had a play on yet, have we? Although, to be fair, my clip probably should have been play on.
Okay, we haven't got a play on this one either. So we've got a few reckless and a few going with excessive. In the main, reckless. So method of contact, trading leg, point of contact, side of the foot, leg low and bent, disregard for opponent, yellow card.
Okay, good. Is there anybody that has gone excessive force, Chris?
Say that again, sorry?
Has anybody gone excessive force?
We've got excessive caution from Matt Lachlan.
Excessive caution. No, I don't want to speak to Matt again. Anybody else gone excessive force?
I think generally we've gone reckless for
Anyone gone careless? Anyone gone careless?
Paul Turner, careless.
Who said careless? Sorry.
Paul Turner.
Oh, Paul Turner. Would you mind maybe speaking to the group or putting a little bit in the group chat why you think it's careless, just out of interest? Not saying you're wrong. It's all down to opinion.
It just looked a little bit careless to me. It could be reckless, to be honest. As an observer, I'd support either.
Thanks, Paul. That's great. Thank you. Appreciate you coming in there. Cool. So let's have a look at what I think. So for me, this is a reckless challenge committed by the yellow 2. I know some of you have gone careless, some of you have gone excessive caution, Matt Lachlan. Some of you might have gone excessive caution, right? But for me, this is a reckless challenge by the yellow 2 on the blue player. The challenge is late and deliberate, made using a higher degree of intensity and speed than permitted. So for me, it's enough to warrant a caution, but not enough for a red card, all right? It doesn't endanger the safety. There wasn't excessive force used, all right? The player didn't actually catch his opponent with the studs. It's kind of the inside of his leg, which I think some of you have picked up on. So I'm glad to see that we're kind of all singing off the same hymn sheet, roughly along the same lines. So that's kind of my thought process and opinion behind it. I've also put a little point at the bottom. Always keep an eye on the offender, right? So I don't know if some of you noticed, but the yellow 2 is a little bit cheeky, and he tried to disappear very, very quickly because he knew he was going to be in a bit of trouble. You want to, as soon as that tackle goes in, especially if there's a mass confrontation, you need to keep your eye on the offender, or just keep a memory of the number. If you can't, of the number who did it. If you can't remember the number, maybe try and remember what kind of hair he has, or what boots, or if there's any sock tape. Just something to help you identify him when you need to go back to caution or send off. Obviously, if you do forget, then you're going to have a little bit of a problem, which I had at the start of the year. You end up potentially making an incorrect decision and cautioning or sending off the wrong player, which we don't want. As I found out the hard way, it could seriously affect your match control. But that's another story for another day. Anybody got anything to add, Chris, on that?
No, I think you're good to go, mate.
Good, excellent. Right, let's have a look for clip number 5. Okay, this is a really interesting. Again, there's kind of two parts to this clip, which I want us to have a look at. Oh, Steve got a hand up, Chris. Steve Phipps.
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say, just before you go on to the next one, perhaps we'll just go back to Steve. Just
a quick question is to remind everybody that when you're refereeing, you only see it once, not twice like we're seeing it tonight. So try and get your gut feeling with the first time you see the clip.
Yeah, seriously, good point.
That is completely right there. We need to try and look at it once, because on a match day, unfortunately, at our level, we don't have the privilege of VAR, the replays we can go back and watch. It's just once that we get to see it. So it's really important that we stay focused and switched on, so we can get a clear picture of what's going on. Right, clip number 5. Let's share it with you guys. So AFC Telford versus Arsenal League North. Okay, so 2 parts to this clip. There are potentially 2 fouls, maybe not 2 fouls, which the referee could or could not give. You can put a vote in for, and then the potential second challenge afterwards for me. That would be fantastic. So just to put a bit of there's 2 fouls, one by the white 7, and then one potentially by the white 4 afterwards. So if you could just put what you think, that would be fantastic. All right, Chris, what are people generally gone for?
Okay, so we got the first challenge. Generally, we've gone for careless. That Elliot has put in there for reckless because of the method. Hands and arms point of contact was around the head or face. Latent disregard for opponent, but not using excessive force. So generally, yeah, and people have gone for the second one being careless as well, generally.
Okay, excellent. Elliot, thank you very much for your point, and I think it's very, very valid. I think you could either argue for the first one, it could be careless or caution. I've put careless for the first challenge because for me, both the yellow and the white players initially jump for the ball in a fair manner, but the white player ends up jumping into his opponent in a careless manner instead of playing the ball. That's just my opinion, but again, you could argue that he's led with his arm and he's caught him in a reckless manner, which is slightly late. And I'm sure some people would agree with you on that front. So thank you very much for coming in there. I think generally the first one was fairly standard, a fairly standard decision on a Saturday. We'd give the free kick and move on for careless. But the second one's a little bit more interesting. I think, as Chris said, a lot of you seem to go for careless. I mean, I've been preparing this presentation for a while now, so I've had the privilege of watching this clip back and back again. So after the free kick is awarded, there's a second challenge by the white 4. The white 4 initially goes into the challenge with a high extended leg, but pulls out of it before he gets too close to the yellow player. I think if you watch it closely, it almost looks like a kind of kung fu kick slightly. I mean, I've slowed it right down and pressed play and pause all the time to analyze it. And I think the nature of a challenge, the way he goes in, for me, it's reckless and warranted a caution. If he hadn't pulled out the challenge, the consequences could have been a lot more because his foot at one point was very high and his leg was very straight. Luckily, he has pulled out the challenge and he hasn't made any real contact with the player. But again, that has no relevance. I think the nature of it, for me personally, it makes it reckless. I don't know what you guys think. I'm sure a lot of you will probably disagree with me. Some might agree. It'd be interesting to see what you think in the comments. This is a really difficult clip for the referee because, to be fair, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's quite a common occurrence. You'll give a free kick and then something else will happen straight away. And I've put on the presentation, could the referee have used the trailing eye technique for the second challenge? But in this clip, I don't think he could because he was watching the 2 players who went in for the first initial challenge and he was giving the free kick. And he gave the first free kick quite quickly as well. So I don't think there's much more the referee could have done. Potentially, in that situation, the assistant referee should have been keeping an eye on where the ball went and the 2 players and the challenge that followed. Maybe that's a bit of development and learning for the assistant referee there, not to switch off until it's completely safe to do so. I sound like Boris Johnson there. But yeah, so I don't know what you guys think. Chris, is anybody coming with any points?
Just a question from Nick. Would you caution for the second challenge?
Yes, as I said, I think it's reckless, so I would have cautioned. You're still able to caution if something else happens after the whistle's gone. You're completely within your rights in the laws of the game. That's just my opinion. I felt that the nature of the challenge was reckless. And he was lucky that he's pulled out when he did, because otherwise it could have been a lot more serious and severe. That's just my opinion. I'm sure some people would entirely disagree. Some people would agree with me, but that's just the nature and the beauty of refereeing in football. Any other questions?
Just one from Wissam really about the challenge for the second free kick.
Yep.
If you've given that, let's just pretend for a second the first one hasn't happened.
Yep.
How would you have restarted the play if that second free kick was the only one that you were given?
So I haven't given the first free kick. That's what he's asked, is it?
Yeah. So if you just pretend the first free kick hasn't happened.
Okay. So it would be a direct free kick to the yellow team right on the touchline where the offence happened, as well as a caution for the white player. That's how you restart play with a direct free kick, all right? Because it's a foul challenge, and that is one of the direct free kick offences if committed in a careless, reckless, or excessive force manner, all right? Good. Shall we just move on, because I'm wary of time. We'll just go through a couple more. Oh, this is a brilliant clip. Okay, so this is Merchant versus Dorking Wanderers in the Isthmian Prem. I know this has been circulating at level 3 or 4 meetings, so apologies if you've seen this. But if you haven't, this is a brilliant clip. Some great learning here for all of us to be done. Right, let's have a little watch. I think the commentary on this is great, by the way. Okay, guys, have a little vote for me. Hopefully none of us will say play on for this one. What are we thinking?
Okay, so generally we're going red card, use of excessive force. Yeah, everyone's gone red card.
Excellent. So it seems like most of us have gone for a red card there, which is grand. Again, if some of you want to put your thought process, your thinking, your reasoning behind it, please do. So then Chris can give those to me and we can have a little chat about it. Okay, so key points from clip 6. So the second challenge by the red 7 is an act of serious foul play. I saw some of you mentioned in the comments he uses a stamping motion to challenge yellow player using excessive force, also catching him high on the shin. So we've got a high contact point as well. So this challenge definitely uses excessive force and definitely endangers the safety of his opponent. Right, so pretty straightforward one. I just want to talk a little bit about what happened in the build-up to that challenge. So what do we think, guys? You just put something in the comments box. Do you think the referee needs to play advantage in that area of the field of play? I put risk versus reward. Do you think the risk that he takes by playing that advantage outweighs the reward of it? What do we think? Put something in the comments box. It's really important as a referee to stay switched on at all times, all right? So obviously the referee's played advantage. He's feeling proud of himself. He's waving his arms, shouting play on advantage. So he potentially might have lost sight and focus of the next challenge, which is about to occur. So really, really important. Although you might be doing something brilliant, playing a brilliant advantage, you still need to stay switched on for that next offence to happen, because as proven in this clip, it's happened a matter of seconds later. Again, I put trailing eye technique, something that we like to use as referees. Once the ball is gone, we just want to keep our eye there for a second or two after the ball's gone to make sure there are no late challenges flying in. Again, a good practice for us to use. So, Chris, what's the feedback we got on this clip?
So, generally, why would you play an advantage in the defensive third? Obviously, there's a risk of match control should you give a free kick earlier. A couple of people got questions as well, Isaac, if you want to take those.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, shoot.
Yeah. Tony, do you want to unmute yourself first? Is Tony there? Adam, do you want to come in with your question?
Yeah, okay. Blakey, my question is over. Surely, the red player should have had a free kick ages ago, and the referee's still playing an advantage. So should we not go back for the free kick for the red, even though we're sending the red player off?
Okay, so for me personally, I think, I mean, I would never have played advantage in the first place, right? So I would never get myself into that situation. As you all know, I'm a very good, highly rated ref. No, I'm only joking. In all seriousness, I think the referee has allowed the play to go on for long enough so he doesn't have to bring the advantage back. Although it's a rubbish advantage to play, and I agree you should never have played it, the opportunity has gone to bring the free kick back. I think especially in that situation, what, in terms of football expectation, what are the players going to expect, right? So that challenge, a horrible challenge, has just gone in, all right? Everybody's absolutely furious, okay? How do you think the players are going to react if you then bring it back for a silly free kick for a shirt ball originally. I think generally the greater expectation of the game is to punish the more serious offence. All right, so people wouldn't be expecting to bring it back for the early free kick. They'd be expecting a free kick for the challenge which has just occurred. And I think you would get a lot more respect, and your match control wouldn't be risked if you took the safe decision there to give the free kick for the nasty challenge. I hope that answers your question. All right. Does anybody have any other questions, Chris?
Yeah, Tony, in you come now.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
All right, Tony.
No, is it coming in? No.
Yeah, I can hear you, Tony.
Fine.
Yeah. Okay. I actually used this clip at Kingston RA a couple of months ago, and embarrassingly, both the referee and the assessor were in the room.
Yeah.
And so I was spouting off, giving my opinion and stuff like that. And I was just watching some of the questions and opinions on the chat there, and it was all about advantage. And was there, should we have given, I think Dave put a cheap free kick. We don't give cheap free kicks. We give free kicks or not free kicks. But in this case, he was absolutely adamant that there was no foul and he was not playing advantage. So he let that situation go, believing he hadn't played an advantage because he didn't see a foul. So it's all about foul recognition and what you believe it to be. If you saw a foul, you give it. If you don't see a foul, you play on, and that was the result of it. But yeah, it was. It got quite tense in the room actually discussing it because he wasn't happy about going over it, and I'm still not sure they'd be happy with it being spread around all sorts of different places. But you're right, it's absolutely a brilliant clip to look at and discuss and debate because there's so many things to take out of that.
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point, Tony. And I think obviously I wasn't there at the meeting. If the referee says that he wasn't playing advantage, then that's fair enough. And like you said, maybe he needs to work on his foul recognition a bit more to identify that early foul to potentially kill it. The referee does produce a red card for this offence, which is great. So he's recognised it's an act of serious foul play. But we're talking about prevention here. Obviously, we don't want to have to send a player off unless we really have to. We want to try and manage the game as much as possible with 11v11. Obviously, there are some things where we are going to have to caution and send off, well, that's just football. But we want to try and manage the game as much as possible. And there are definitely things I think the referee could have done to try and prevent that red card. Right, I'm wary of time. So we've got time for one more clip, Chris?
Yeah, let's do one more.
Yes, do one
Just
more.
a question while you're setting that up.
Yeah.
Is it? One question's come in here. What should the referee do after the incident?
I'm all ears.
Should his focus be on the injured player or sending the player off first?
Great, that is a fantastic question. Okay, it'd be interesting to see what other people think about this. But in that situation, I think because it's such because it's such a horrible challenge, I think the opponents and other players, it's going to heighten tensions massively. So I think in that situation, I would have, if I'm 100% sure it's a red card. Now this is what I would have done. I'm sure some people would have done differently. I would have gone straight for a quick red card to try and diffuse the situation and calm players down and hopefully prevent anything from escalating. And then I would have gone straight to the injured player afterwards. Some people would have done it differently. In this clip, the referee goes to the player first, calms everything down, and then does the red card afterwards. So it's obviously worked to a certain extent for the referee on this occasion. But for me, I'm always going to play safe and try and diffuse it before it gets any worse. I don't know what you guys think about that, but that's just what I would have done personally. I hope that answers your question. This is a great one to finish. Spalding versus Frickley Athletic in the Northern Premier League, all right? Again, I'm sure some of you might have seen this clip before, but it's really good because it reiterates and highlights player reaction and all of that over again. So let's have a little watch. Okay, what do you guys think? Put a little vote in for me. Play on to excessive force.
Okay, so looks pretty unanimous. Excessive force. Out of control. Yeah, coming from a distance. Everyone's going for excessive force.
Excellent, good. Really interested in this one because obviously I spoke about player reaction earlier, and in this instance it's gone completely against the referee. So the challenge by the blue for is an act of serious foul play, a 2-footed aerial lunge using excessive force. All right, quite simple. Although he did not make any real contact with his opponent, the nature of the challenge still endangered the safety of his opponent. Okay, the player reaction here was very minimal. I mean, if you looked at the clip, even the opposing player's teammate who was close by was shocked at the referee for giving a free kick. I mean, I'm sure Tony would have more insight on this, but to me, it looks like they were surprised that a free kick was given. So I don't know what type of football they play up north, but it was kind of crazy, really. So as a referee, it's so difficult, and it's probably happened to all of us. It certainly happened to me when a tackle like that goes in, and you think, "Oh, blimey, that's not good." But nobody reacts, and you put a serious doubt in your mind. So I think the most important thing here, as I put at the bottom, if you want to have a read, as a referee, when that happens, when we don't get such a big player reaction, but it is a bad challenge, it's where we need to be our most switched on and focused, because if we're focused, then we're much more likely to get the decision correct, because we're seeing things clearly, and we're seeing things properly, and we know what decision and action to take. It's just completely avoid that doubt in your mind if you're switched on and focused. Again, this is a conversation I had with my coach Kieran about one game in particular. At Abingdon United last year, there was an incident. I've given a penalty, and because I wasn't 100% focused, I missed a red card for denying an obvious goal scoring opportunity. And I think that's probably the key learning from this one. You need to just be 100% switched on and focused, because if you are, then you'll completely avoid that doubt in your mind, and you won't get decisions like this wrong. Again, a very awkward decision for the referee to make because of the player reaction, but again, one we would hope that he would get right. Chris, have we got any questions on that?
No, I don't think so. I think we're all saying in agreement that excessive force and red card.
Excellent. Right. Cool. Let's have a look at the take-home messages. Unfortunately, we've run out of time, or almost run out of time, so won't be able to go through the last couple of clips, but they are online. If you want to have a look at them for yourself, and have a think about what decision you'd make based on what we talked about tonight, that's great. So take-home messages from today. First point I've put down is know your law. So obviously we spent a good chunk of time before getting to know the laws of the game, the key words, phrases that we would associate with each type of challenge. If we know our law, then we're going to be able to identify and categorize different types of challenges much easier. All right, so make sure you know your laws of the game, brush up. I know Tony's going to be doing the law changes soon, so that'll be a really important evening of presentation to attend. So know your laws of the game. Make sure you have optimum position and angle to be able to identify foul challenges. Obviously, like we saw in clip 3 at Colville Town, we need to make sure that we're in the best position and have the best angle to be able to make the correct decision. If we're miles behind play, if we're out of position, if we're looking through players, then we're just decreasing the chance of getting the decision correct. And also, as I forgot to mention earlier, the better the position we're in, the easier it is to sell to players, all right? If you're 30 yards away, even though you might be correct, compared to 5 yards away, it's going to be much harder to sell, all right? So make sure you're in a good position. So identify the triggers which cause bad challenges, okay? So we've got our heavy touch, loose 50-50 ball, aerial ball, and I can't remember the last one. It's been a long evening, all right? But anyway, you can have a look back on the presentation to look at those triggers. Really important, use self-talk, right? So tackle coming, switched on, whatever works for you, just to make sure you're ready for when that tackle comes. Use the trailing eye technique as much as possible to catch the late challenge, all right? Again, once that ball's gone, just wait for a second or two, make sure there's no late challenge for you to have to deal with. And the last one, most important, always be 100% focused and switched on. This will enable you to see challenges clearly and make decisions without any doubt in your mind, all right? So those are the main take-home messages from recognising foul challenges tonight. I hope you guys have enjoyed the presentation. I've certainly loved delivering it for you. Hopefully you've learned something. Again, like I said earlier, if you haven't, then hopefully you had an entertaining evening out. If you didn't enjoy it, my name's Matt Lockton and Tony Dean. If you did, my name's Isaac Blakey. Thank you very much. I think I'll be hanging around for a bit if you have any questions afterwards. But thank you very much for having me.
Thanks a lot, Isaac.